Welcome back, folks, to another amazing episode of the Millennials to Millionaires podcast. I am your boy, Daniel King Sold.
And I'm Twee Estate.
And we have a very, very special guest co-host who likes to pop in and out whenever he's not driving up and down King Street in his new Lamborghini, Mr. Sherard McQueen. How are you doing, sir?
Mr. King, I'm good. It's glad to be back. We had a little bit of a hiatus, but I'm happy that we had an opportunity to get back because, you know, a lot of people have been talking to me about the podcast and the fact that it's really impacted their lives. I have a driver, you guys know about my Sprinter video, did like 8 million views.
Yeah, Shaq reposted it. We saw everybody reposted that.
It was crazy, but I think what meant the most to me is my driver literally was like, hey, he drives a Sprinter. He's like, I've listened to all the podcasts. When are you guys going to come out with the next season? Mm-hmm. So there's people who are close to me, people who are in my circle who are actually am with on a day-to-day, who are listening to these podcasts, listening to your words, and then they're taking that and applying it in their daily lives. So you guys have to know that and be proud and obviously be consistent.
Yeah, no, I mean, remember we were at the Raptors game and the young fella came up to us. It's like, yo, M2M, I love the podcast. Like, when are you guys coming back out with another episode season? We got to do it.
Is that what happened?
Yeah.
I don't remember that. No.
You don't remember that?
No, what really happened, no. We're going to keep rolling because what I remember really happened.
Yeah.
I was at the same game.
I'm talking about the other game like last season.
Oh, no, I thought he was talking about this most recent one.
No.
And I'm like, no, what really happened is the home opener. Guy came up to me and was like, oh, you're M5V Developments. And then Twee's like, I get that all the time.
No, I'm pretty sure he said, oh, the M5V guys.
Oh, no, plural.
Yeah.
But the reality,
in the same box.
No, but the reality is, no matter which way you look at it, it's becoming pervasive. And I think that's one thing people have to know is that's why we're doing the podcast. We're not doing the podcast for us. And that's like one of my favorite sayings. If you help other people get to where they need to go, it's going to help you get to where you need to go. So I always give before I get, always. So this is another example of us giving, right? We're not here to necessarily receive on this, but any love that we do get, we obviously, we really appreciate it. And we're here to, you know, take everybody to the next level. We want everybody to be financially successful and raise the bar.
100%. So here, the topic today, we're going to talk about the current state of the real estate market. It's been a while since we've been here, and things have changed in a very, very dramatic way since the last time that we had a podcast. This February 2022, was a record-breaking year in real estate. It was a great time to be a realtor because if you put up a listing, that was as much work as you had to do. Your phone would
realtors receiving like magicians.
Yeah.
Like you could do no wrong.
Yeah.
It's like all of a sudden everybody's an expert now,
for sure.
right?
Sold in 12 hours. Yeah. Sold in 5 hours.
300,000 over asking in 2 hours. Like,
47 offers and 183 showings in the first day. Like, so it's so many things that we've seen. And, you know, we wanted to, you know, obviously bring Sherard on to kind of understand what happened and are we ever going to see something like that again? When was the last time that happened? I have some stats here, and before we get into any questions, so sales volume right now, where we're filming this in November, we are down 47% of last year. The average home price in the GTA right now is $1,074,000, which is up 1.2% from last July, but from the peak, which was in February, we're down 19.3%. This year we've seen a record number of cancellations in the market, and there's been so much going on. So let's start from February. Like, why did things get so crazy?
Well, listen, before we even go there, I think what you guys touched on earlier is like realtors, it was the best time for realtors in February during the peak. And I see it the exact opposite because people got into the market, these realtors, and they thought they had a cape on, they thought they were Superman. And now times have changed, and where are they? A lot of people are exiting the market because they really weren't prepared.
Or their clients are underwater.
Well,
right?
and that's the next thing. So now on 1 minute you're the hero because you've sold someone's house for $300,000 over ask, and the next you become a villain because they bought another house at $500,000 over ask, or now they're, like David said, they're underwater. So where are they now? So if you didn't have a strategic partner as an agent at that who had the foresight to understand what the market was at that time, where are these people? So that's one of the main concerns in these markets, in these bull markets, is, you know, what it happens in the aftermath.
I mean, it's tough because a lot of people would seem like amazing realtors, right? Because you can do no wrong at that time. And the flip side of the coin is a lot of people lost their shirts. A lot of people overpaid. I mean, even most recently, my brother bought a townhouse, and he just picked it up for $900,000 in Brampton. And that same style house in February sold for $1.5 million.
Crazy. So we're talking a $600,000 delta.
$600,000. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
And I feel for that person that bought it in February.
For sure.
Because I can only imagine, like, there's no foreseeable way for them to make that equity in any near future.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to be a long time before they realize any appreciation above $1.5 million.
For sure. And we realize how things in the market happen so quickly. And in our previous episode, we touched about you selling your house, and, you know, this glorious hood fan that cost him $300,000.
It was $200,000 that it cost him.
Sorry.
But I'm sure that he told you the other part of the story, that he was able to negotiate another deal and he saved $150,000. So it was only $50,000 that he lost, and I think he learned a valuable lesson.
For sure. But we see how quickly things had changed. Like, it was a matter of weeks that you were seeing record-breaking numbers, and then it was crickets very, very shortly after that, right? So how are things looking in the market now? So it was February. It was a peak. Things started to slow down. Where are things looking like? Its interest rates are rising. You know, people are calling me, and they're like, oh, is now a time to buy real estate with the interest rates so high?
Yeah, listen. You can't make a blanket statement like that and say, is now a time to buy, because every situation is different. So someone can call you in Cambridge and say, is it time to buy? And that might be a different answer than if they're in Brampton. And obviously it depends if they're a first-time home buyer, they're a repeat home buyer, do they have to sell their property first to buy? But if we're going to give a few nuggets for people to go on, if you're a first-time home buyer and you can get approved for a mortgage, it's a great time to buy, because like we said, the prices are down from record numbers February 2022. In some instances, they're down 40%. Why not buy? Yes, interest rates may be higher. Carry costs may be almost the same as it would have been on a more expensive property because of the interest rates increase. However, what I'm telling people to do is either go variable, which I know is scary to people, but over the long term, variable always outperforms fixed. So if they're going to go variable for the next 18 months to 24 months, the rates are going to come down. They're going to be sitting pretty. Or if they're just not comfortable, lock into a 2-year fixed. And then after that, because you can normally renew 3 to 6 months before the end of the term, then we can see where the market's at, which we think is going to come down. Because you have to realize these pressures that the government is putting, right, to reduce the home prices, they only can go on so long, right? They can't let everybody just go underwater. Right, because then that's when you go into a recession, a depression. You have other things that can happen because a lot of people's wealth is tied up in their primary residence. So they can only let it go so far. And the people are losing their houses. It's not good for the economy. It's not good for immigration. It's not good for anything. So the government needs to make sure everything works in a holistic fashion.
So I tell people, honestly, is if you can afford to buy now and we'll try to weather the storm. Because if you can weather the storm, once interest rates do go back down, your carrying costs do go down, and you're going to be winning because appreciation is going to start to catch up.
Exactly.
Right? People are going to start to see some rise in their equity. So back in, like, you're a bit older than us. So back in, like, this is a bit.
Back in the olden days.
Yeah, so back
we were on horse and buggy. Yes.
Back when you were going to school
back
on a
in the
horse.
Great Depression. Yes.
So back in 2008, when we saw the market dip like this, what were interest rates like back then? And how long did it kind of take for the market to kind of recover?
Well,
what can we expect?
It wasn't an interest rate issue back then.
It was a subprime mortgage issue.
It was a subprime mortgage issue that was really happening in the States. And when they catch a cold, we get one too, right? We get the sniffles. And that's really what happened, because a lot of our stuff, it's North America. They're integrated and they're correlated. So that's what happened, right? But that, I would say, was about 16 to 18 months. Market was down. But I'd also say that's when I made some of my most money early on in my career. I had a property. It was on Roxton Street in Toronto. I was flipping this house. I thought I was going to make $250,000. I wound up losing 70. Mm-hmm. So I went from all the way from me making 250 to me losing 70. So it's a $320,000 delta. Yeah. But what I was able to do is take the money that I did get back. So let's say I got back $300,000, which is just my money that I put in, plus the renovation money, plus the down payment money, less the $70,000 I lost. But I had $320, and I took it. And I went over to Tip Top Loft. Behind there are some condos over there, and I bought like 9 units. And they were offering 5% down payment, 5% commission. And I was buying 600 square feet units on the water for $205,000.
What are you telling me?
And I bought...
Hold on. Let's unpack that for a second.
Let's rewind a little bit. Hold on. So you got back... How much money did you get back?
I got it back by like $320, but you got to remember, like maybe I put in almost $4.
Sure.
So I lost money.
Yeah.
But that was me getting back my money. But we'll talk about it in a bit, but that is the sunk cost fallacy, where people like, I have this much money in, so I'm just going to stay in until I make money on this. You can't look at everything in a silo. You have to look at everything in its totality. You have to look on the big picture.
You got to know when to count your losses. Like if you're
people can't do it.
Gamblers in Vegas and they're at the blackjack table and they're like, you know what? I already lost $5,000. Let me just try to make that money back by keep going, and they don't know when to actually just take their chips and
now they're
away.
Down 10. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now they're down 15.
And the worst thing
now they've lost their house.
The worst thing as a gambler is to win money.
That's the
worst thing, right? Because now you feel like you figured it out. Yeah.
So it goes back to the same thing. So what happened with these units, because the builder had already sold most units, had 20, 30 units left, they were afraid of where the market was going to go. So they wanted to take their cash off the table. So they said, you know what? Let's just let these. It was like 30 units left or 40 units. I bought 9. I bought 9 of them because that's all the money I had.
Yeah.
I bought 9 of them
at 5% down.
But it's 5% down, 5% commission. So what would happen is you put down the 5% down, and then after like 30 or 60 days, the money was vested, and then they cut me a check back for 2.5.
Yeah.
So it's really only for 2.5% commission.
Yeah.
But that is actually when I start selling my first condos, because before then we were selling more resale. So when I went in there, I called all my family, all my friends, and I sold like 21 units between my business partner, Yassine, and I. We sold 21 units. So we made 5% commission off all those units.
Wow.
And then everybody in there made like $100,000, $150,000 on each unit.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And you had 9 of them.
And I had 9 of them.
That's crazy.
Right? And then those guys, we had another 21. So not only did I make money when I was selling them from the builder, then either if they assigned unit, I made money, or they sold them down the line. I made money and they made money. And again, if you're making your clients money, that's when you're really gonna win, right? It's not about me making money. Yeah. If they go make 100, 150 grand,
they're loyal. They're loyal to you.
They're gonna tell everybody, and they're gonna come back. And a lot of those clients bought with me in the Niagara through proxy, because I wasn't selling the units through myself, but they still have invested with me for the next projects now that I'm in the development space, because we were able to win and make them that money. So that is one of the core things that you have to do, is not just like in February, oh yeah, you're gonna buy this house and you make a commission and you walk away, because you have to have enough foresight to say, this price has gone up 30% in 6 months. It's not sustainable.
Something's gonna happen.
Yeah, no, 100%. So that $320,000, how much were you able to flip it to with those 9 condos?
Oh, we made over $1 million on those condos, because like I said, each condo. You
assigned them all?
I closed some, I assigned some. You know, we did whatever
we had to work.
We just made it work. You know, I want to shout out one of my longtime friends. You know, I won't say his name, but who helped me out because I needed money. Like, you buy all these, you put this money down, and you're like, oh, I have to close these?
Yeah.
It's like,
I've been there.
Yeah. I have to close these 9 units at once. And he like wrote me a check for $1 million. And he's like, okay, this is going to help you close them. And then when I close them, I repatriated. He charged me interest 8 or 10%, but it was nothing compared to what we were making. And, you know, I had went to some other hard money lenders, and they were like, oh, yeah, you know, we want 30%, or we want equity, or we want this, we want that. I said, okay, well, you know what? What's left for me? Yeah. You guys weren't here when I walked in and got the deal. So
they want 50% of the profits.
But they want 50% of the profit. I said no. So it's about finding that balance, that partnership. But the reality is that's when you're choosing an agent, you have to be careful. You do need someone who's been vetted. You need someone who's been seasoned in the game, because when we're talking about the current state of the market, anyone who's been through a couple of these cycles, because 2016, 2017, it got a little bit rocky, and now we're back here now. And in 2008, it got rocky. And then when I was younger, my parents had in the early 90s, it was rocky then. Rates 13, 14, 15%. People are losing their houses. So I've seen about 4 or 5 of these cycles.
Yeah.
So if you've seen enough of these, you can kind of identify and say, okay, but there's no way, because this house was trading at 800,000 in October, and now it's 1.3.
Doesn't make sense.
Right. So to me, you have to pay attention. So now the current market, for me, is a great market, like I said, for buyers. If you want to buy and you're first-time home buyers, it's great. Also, if you want to buy and you want to upsize, and this is what people, they can't be afraid. If you had a house that was worth 1.2 in February and now it's worth 900 grand, so you're like, nope, I'm going to lose 300 grand. I'm just going to sit here and I'm just going to wait for it to go back up. No, that's not what you do.
Because that detached you want to buy
exactly
is now a little bit less as well.
But the detached is actually falling more, because the smaller the property is, the less it's going to fall.
Gotcha.
Because there's more people in the market who can afford that. So now let's say you're going to go up and buy a $1.5 million property. That property was probably $2 million before. So that's fallen $500,000. Your property has only fallen $3. So you're not actually losing $300,000. You're making $200,000.
Yeah.
That's an interesting way to think about it. Now, I know that, we've obviously seen a decline in the GTA. How has Niagara and some of those regions been dealing with this market right now? Is it a similar thing that you're seeing?
Well, again, at least for the properties that we've sold, they've been incredibly buoyant because they are more cost efficient. Okay. We sold properties $300,000 to $500,000. They still have a lot of people who are looking to be in that range. A lot of people who were renting before now can buy at that number, right? Or some people who had bigger houses and now want to downsize. So that's why whenever I decided I want to build real estate, I want to build investment real estate that is going to be able to withstand multiple markets, not just good markets. They're great. And then a bad market, you have to fire sell them. So this is giving us an opportunity to remain. Other parts of Niagara certainly have been hit, but people are still moving out to the region because it's a beautiful region. It's very picturesque. It's close to the border. So now you have the Hamilton Airport. You also have the Niagara Airport. You have the Buffalo Airport. So it's great.
Definitely better than Pearson. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that much.
I'm not going to throw any shade because we're flying out in a couple of weeks. But yes, it looks a little bit dicey over there. I tried to get Swoop because I went to fly to Hamilton. I just tried anything not to fly.
Swoop's a terrible airline.
You think so?
Yeah.
I heard that they're new planes though. You know me. I like anything that's new and shiny. So I was really happy.
The seats don't recline. I've been on
no recliner?
No recliner.
No entertainment system either.
But they're first class, don't they?
No way. And their seats are paper thin. It's like a tiny layer of foam to comfort you.
It looks like David is flown Swoop.
Quite a bit.
It means I've learned.
I just wanted to not fly out of Pearson, but at the end of the day, I think Niagara is still great. Obviously, we're in other secondary markets. We're in Muskoka. We're in Aurelia. These are great markets. But when also you talk about current markets, it's just not about buying and selling. It's about rental. So what I would tell people, maybe another great opportunity to sell is instead of renting their property right now, take the money, take this quote-unquote perceived loss on paper. They have a house that's worth $1 million. It was worth 1.4. Now they're going to sell it at $1 million, but maybe they have $400,000 or $500,000 in equity. Take that. Buy 2 or 3 smaller properties, right? Because now you are diversified your asset base and you have more tenants. Because you have one tenant and they don't pay, it becomes a risk. And obviously the higher risk is the more rent that people are paying, the higher chance that they're going to default. If you have someone paying $5,000 or $6,000 a month, if there's a little ripple or tremor, they're out of there.
Yeah.
If you have 2 or 3 people paying $2,000, it's different. But not only that, you're going to get higher rent per square foot on a cheaper property. Okay. So if you have something we have things in Niagara, I think they're just under 500 square feet and they're renting for $1,500. Well, that's $325 a square foot. That's actually the same as Toronto rate right now.
There's actually a unit that just leased out for $1,700.
One of the small ones.
Yeah.
Right. So that's over $350 a square foot. Now, my parents just moved back from the States. They wanted to be close to me, and I'm very grateful for that. They're renting around the corner from me in Kleinburg. They're renting 3,200 square feet for $4,000. So they're paying like $1.33 a square foot. There's no math for that. So it doesn't make sense. So really, the only reason why that person is renting that property at that rate is because they're not calculating the value of the property today. They're doing it against the value where they bought the property. So maybe that property that my parents are renting is $1.8 million in today's market. Those people probably bought it at $1 million.
For sure.
So their numbers work at $1 million. You can't do the numbers based on what the property's worth now. Before, you have to do it on what it's based now.
No.
So you're like, okay, I'm renting a $2 million property. My real carry cost for this property should be $6,000 a month. I'm renting for $4,000. I'm actually losing $2,000. See, people, unless it's in their face, unless it's crystallized, people don't understand it. If you're losing an opportunity cost, you're losing money. That it's just simple. Right. So you have to understand that. And once people can wrap their mind around that, the phantom money, the things that they can't see but they're still losing, then they're gonna make better business decisions. So I would tell people in this current market, if they're renting bigger properties, if they're getting $1 to $1.50 a square foot on these bigger properties, go ahead, take them, sell them, reinvest either in pre-construction, where they'll be ready in 2 years, where we know the market's going to bounce back, or get some smaller properties where you don't have one person controlling your whole financial future. Because that person who was renting that house to my mom, she went 4 months. I had to apply 3 times to get that same property because she was so gun shy about renting it because the previous tenants went almost a year without paying.
You imagine?
Do you know what that did to her financial outlook?
Oh, man.
They went a year.
Yeah.
But now
She's
imagine
scarred.
if you had 3 properties and one person went a year, but the other 2 were paying, they're going to offset that. But when you put all your eggs in one basket to say, then it's done, right? So she was in a very, very unfortunate situation, and she was really gun shy. She had the property sitting there for 4 months. So in this market, these are the type of things that we're talking about. Is renting out smaller profits, getting more money, price per square foot. It's a great time to upgrade if you're getting to a bigger house, and it's a great time to buy if you're a first-time home buyer.
Okay. I think you said something very profound, selling to buy pre-construction. Because in a market like we're in now, I think pre-construction is the smartest thing anybody can do, right?
Interest rates.
Where else can you put your money right now
and be insulated? Right? No matter what happens, interest rates go down, interest rates go up, like I'm still insulated because I've locked in a price at a certain value.
Right. And it's going to be, you have 2 more years
for
to
things
wait,
to level off.
So I love right now being in this situation. I know Daniel's trying to stop us because he wants these episodes in the 20 minutes, but this is not going to happen right now because we're onto something. We're onto something. So I know the people out there, they want bonus time. And what you guys are saying is, hey, hold on, we're not done yet, and we're not done yet. So what I'm talking about is the opportunity to buy pre-construction. And I'm not necessarily saying you have to buy in Niagara, but buy on the outskirts. To me right now, buying downtown Toronto pre-construction, it's not it.
Doesn't make
People
sense.
are charging $1,500
Yeah.
a square foot to buy. That's $1.5 million for 1,000 square feet. Yeah. Then they have to also understand what the maintenance is. Could be like 70 cents a square foot, right?
Yeah.
Versus
7 bills.
Right. So there's no math for it. And they can't rent out for anywhere near these numbers. But where there is great opportunities is in the quote unquote secondary market. Some of the best markets like Bowmanville's renting out, or Oshawa's renting out, or some stuff in the north. It's Innisfil, or
Barrie.
It's Barrie. Yeah. Barrie's great. These are great markets. So if you're gonna buy and you're looking for an opportunity, look on the outskirts. You're gonna be insulated. We've also talked before about renting where you live, but buying something to own somewhere else. This is a great opportunity to do that. Because my parents are renting at $1.33 a square foot in Kleinburg.
Down the street from
Down the street. Now they can go and buy a property in Barrie and get $2.50 for rent, or buy a couple small properties somewhere and get $3.25 for rent. So when they look at how much they're actually going to wind up making money on every $2 every square foot, that instead of buying something in my area. So I said you can't buy right now at $1.8 to $2 million in my area. There's no math for it. You take that same deposit and you put the $400,000 that you have to put on this, and you're buying 3 smaller properties. And you could leverage. Maybe you buy 2 pre-con and you buy 1 that's already ready. Yeah. You know, maybe you buy some MDUs, some top and bottom. Maybe you're doing something with some VRUs, vacation rental units. You have other stuff that you can do. But this is how you have to spread everything amongst these asset classes. People are like, well, Sherard, you're not diversified. You're only in real estate. That couldn't be further from the truth. You have real estate that is being used multiple ways. You can still be in just real estate, but you have to be diverse.
No, that's key. And listen, since we're not watching the time anymore, I got another question for you, if you don't mind.
We threw that right out the window.
Yeah, no problem. Let's talk about it. All over my Instagram, I'm seeing Calgary this and Calgary that. And I have a bunch of my clients calling me and saying, hey, Daniel, a lot of those
phone calls too.
How come you haven't sent me something in Calgary? Everyone's talking about Calgary right now. Why shouldn't I buy something over there? It's $300,000. They're talking about 10% down. It's only $30,000 to buy something over there. Talk to me a little bit about your thoughts about Calgary and, you know, price versus value.
So that ties into where we are in the current marketplace as well, right? So in the current marketplace, prices are a little frothy still, even though the market's come down. So you're not going to see how many $300,000 properties are you going to see within an hour of the GTA. It's very few. Yeah. So now people are saying, okay, let's go to Calgary. One big thing they have to understand is, how are they going to close? You see, I went through this. I told you. I had all these 9 properties that I bought on paper, and I couldn't close them. And I went with my hat in my hand to somebody and said, okay, well, help me out. And they helped me. If you don't have that, what are you going to do? You're going to have to understand, CMHC is an insurance program for people who are buying a primary residence. That enables you to put down less than 20% to close a property. If you have an investment property, you have to put down 20% in Canada to be able to close it. So right away, unless you get into some other stuff and, you know, maybe you get a hard money lender to back you or a second mortgage, which they're actually supposed to be disclosed. So the only right way to do it, the correct way, is to put down 20%. So maybe the builder only required you to put down 10, and you have that 10%, and it's holding that property for a year or 18 months. Now when it comes time to close, how do you close it? You need another 10. So it's not really just 30, it's still 60. And then plus you have land transfer tax, you have closing costs, you have legal fees. So now we're talking about $70,000. So people want to get in and they don't understand how they actually going to close. So that's my first thing, making sure you have the other money set aside to close. Gotcha. Then the other thing you spoke about is, yes, price versus value, which to me is always the most important thing. People say, oh yeah, I'm getting a deal. Is it really a deal? If you buy in Calgary and you buy at $300,000 and you have it for 4 years and it goes up to $360,000, or you bought in Canada or you bought in Ontario at $420,000 in Niagara and it went up to $600,000. Yeah. And you only really put down an extra 15 or 18 or 20 grand to close it.
It's not a number. What are we talking about?
What are we really talking about? Yeah. Right? Or even worse, now you might have been able to actually move into that property in Niagara and make it your primary residence. So instead of putting down 20%, now you're only putting down 5, or you're only putting down 10. You have the option. There's a lot of people in Niagara who maybe thought initially they were only going to take the property and buy it as an investment. But when the time came, they had another alternative. They said, you know what? I like this property. I don't want to be in the GTA. I want to move out. I'm going to move out to Niagara. You're going to move out to Calgary? You don't even have the options, not even on the table.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially if you can't close. Some people might have had to move in there just because their financial situation changed so much. They were like, well, I can't even come up with 20% to close. So I'd rather move in and save it. And another thing what people have to understand is if you do not move into your property and it's not your primary residence, when you close pre-construction, you have to pay the HST rebate. It's $24,000 for any property over around $450,000. So at $300,000, maybe the HST is like $16,000, $17,000. So they have to come up with that money. They're also going to have to come up with development fees and levies, closing costs, and you have to know what those are and what are they going to be capped at in Calgary. So this, I only need $30,000 down on this $300,000 property could wind up being $85,000 or $90,000 closing cost at the end of it. Did you not just get a message from one of your clients the other day who said he got hit with a $75,000 unexpected closing cost?
Yeah, he was not happy about that at all. He went into his lawyers to sign the day before closing, and they told him that he was short $75,000. And he's like, how? I made all my payments. I paid my lawyer. I paid all my fees. Where is this money coming from? His levies weren't capped, right? So he had to scramble and find $75,000, or he was going to lose all of his deposits, and they would have took him to court and probably sued him for more.
That's another thing, having competent legal counsel. Because if you are buying a property, it's your first time buying a property, you don't know nothing about closing, it's on your lawyer to tell you, like, maybe we should look at capping these levies. Maybe we should look at least reaching out to the developer to see what you can do, right? It's all it takes is an email. All it takes is an email.
That's the worst
and
part about it.
It could have saved them maybe $65,000. They could have capped it at 10
easily. And what you have to also understand is some people are trying to assign their properties right now in this market. They bought overpriced properties in Toronto. They're trying to assign them for lower. And when you go and look at the assignment, I was looking at one the other day for myself.
No
and
cap.
The levies weren't capped. And I said, well, what, are you trying to sell me this time bomb?
Yeah.
Literally.
Right. So you haven't capped your levies. You assigned it to me. My levies still aren't capped. And now I get caught with the hot potato, and I have $100,000 closing costs that I didn't have because you guys didn't cap your levies. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's not going to happen because, I know what the game is. So if you're out here in this market, you have to watch everything. So to me, unfortunately, there's no like database for realtors, or it's like, okay, I think they have one for doctors, or this is a good doctor. This is good. There's nothing. So people are kind of out here on their own. And that's the unfortunate thing. You get your license in 6 months, a year, or whatever the case may be. And people just think, well, you drive a flashy car, or you have a nice bus sign or a billboard or whatever, that you're competent. But this game, this pre-construction game and this closing and stuff is a completely different thing. Do you need to stage a property? When do you go to market? When do you not go to market? How do you? So you really need to be forensic. Only go based on referral. Look at people's previous listings. There's a lot of stuff that goes into making sure you're insulated. So when you're in a market like this, you can still operate. If you're dealing with a professional right now in this market, it's a great time to buy.
For sure. So needless to say, not every single person that has their real estate license is a professional, has this type of experience, has been in the game, and can adequately guide you in the right direction. So make sure if you are looking to buy real estate, you're talking to one of us or somebody that knows exactly what they're doing. Mr. McQueen, we really appreciate having you on this amazing episode. Can't wait to have you back. We know we will be back. You already know what it is. It's the Millennials to Millionaires podcast. I'm your boy, Daniel King Sold.
And I'm Twee Estate.
Sherard McQueen, and thank you again for having me.